Armando 先生，您好，
Hi, Rosa.
很高兴啊，今天下午可以和您在一起去分享关于我们葡萄牙的新能源的发展前景。我听我的朋友说呀，您是一位特别专业、特别严谨，而且呢也是特别注重投资者利益的一位基金管理人。那么您可以跟我们介绍一下您管理的绿色电力欧洲基金吗？
Thank you, Rosa. It's a pleasure to be here at the invitation of Bison Bank for this meeting. This is our third fund. We started in 2000. We launched our first fund that only invested in Portugal because the team was in Portugal. And then we enlarged the team with people, more partners that came from other countries, from Spain and Italy and France. And we enlarged. The second fund was a European-wide fund at the time. The second fund was launched around 2008, 2009. And now this is our third fund. Because we think that we had a doubt in the beginning if the renewables energy market was still in place with good returns for us to launch a third fund. Because you know that the first two funds we got a system in Europe that was a feed-in tariff system, and that ended. Now we don't have the help and the support of the governments. Now it's just the market. And but when we looked into the prospects for the European market for the next 10 years, 20 years, we see better opportunities even than we had in the first two funds. So we decided to launch this new fund that is a Portuguese-based fund, eligible for Golden Visa investors also, and that is a fund that targets returns of 2 digits and invests mainly in renewable energy projects. Wind farms and PV solar systems, both utility scale and the smaller ones like rooftop and small business projects.
新能源呢，在全世界都有很多的发展机会，请问您为什么要专注欧洲市场呢？
Well, in the beginning, it was a question of proximity, because we are based. The first team was based in Portugal, but afterwards, the focus on European markets became more and more important in terms of the prospects that we have for these markets. Europe is known since the beginning of the questions regarding the greenhouse gas emissions. It was clear that Europe was very eager to develop the renewable energy sector and to support that development. And that means better returns, better prospects, lower risk in terms of investments, a more stable environment in terms of regulations and laws. So the reason became the interest that the European market has and what it has to offer in terms of growth, of returns and lower risk that we are always looking for.
非常感谢您刚才的回答。那请您再给我们解释一下，我们为什么要投资欧盟的再生能源市场？
Well, basically for two reasons. Stability in terms of the environment, but also in terms of the return, very good returns. And why are we going to have very good returns in the next decades in renewable energy in Europe? Basically, the reason is the imbalance between demand and supply. We are going to have a boost in terms of the demand for electricity in the market because the economy is growing and because of the electric mobility and the electric car. We expect in Europe to have a 40-fold increase in terms of the electric cars that are circulating across Europe, and also because the European Union has an important project in terms of the green hydrogen. And to produce green hydrogen, you need electricity from renewable sources. So only the project of the renewable of the green hydrogen means an increase in 5% of the demand for electricity in the market. On the other hand, we don't expect an increase in supply of electricity because all the plans from the European governments point to 2030 to a maintenance of the installed capacity for producing electricity. The total capacity is not going to increase. What is going to change is the mix. So in the total capacity of production of electricity, the renewables are going to, now they represent around 20% of the total, and until 2030 we expect them to represent 50%. That's what is in the national plans of the several governments.
很高兴啊，听到您对欧洲再生能源的介绍，这让我也非常的兴奋。那么还有一个问题就是，作为一名中国投资者，我为什么要选择 Biz Capital 基金管理公司的产品呢？
Well, basically for two reasons. The first one is our experience in the field. We have more than 20 years experience in developing investment funds and managing renewable energy projects across Europe, and the track record that we have obtained and given to our investors of those funds in the past. That is one important reason, I suppose. The second one is that for the effect of golden visa investment in Portugal, if you want to have a fund that invests in renewable energy, green power is the only one available right now. There are other green renewable energy funds across Europe based in other countries, but not with golden visa accessibility in terms of the Portuguese market.
刚才听到您讲了欧洲新能源的前景啊，我特别的兴奋，也非常的好奇。作为一个唯一在新能源行业适用于黄金居留的基金产品，您给我们介绍一下这个基金的优势好吗？
Well, green power is an excellent opportunity for the investors because it's a fund that is going to be invested in the next 10 years in one of the best opportunities in terms of markets across Europe and across the world, both in terms of risk and return, because when we speak about investments in renewable energy, we are always speaking about very low risk. It's very difficult to lose money in an investment in a renewable energy project. And the returns that we expect are above 10-12%, considering the market prices that we have now. In Europe right now we have the futures markets that give us, we can fix the prices for selling the electricity of the projects for 10 years if we want. We can be in the spot market every year, but we can extend and fix the prices in the market. So the returns are expected are very, very good. The fund is also that's something that the renewable energy projects also permit, that is for the fund to be a yield fund, that is a fund that pays regularly dividends for the investors. Our expectation is that after the second or third year we pay 3 to 5% each year of dividends to the investors. The fund is going to invest in the first 6 years in the projects across Europe, and then we'll prepare the phasing out for the finish of the fund. One thing that is very important also, and this for instance is different for the investment in the funds in real estate, for instance, is that this kind of investments is much easier for the end of the fund to phase out. It's very simple to sell the projects. We can sell the projects in the market, but it's also possible to do something that it's not possible in a real estate fund or in a private equity fund, a traditional private equity fund. That is to do the securitization of the cash flows of the projects. We can close the fund in the end of its life and return all the money to the investors by securitizing the cash flows of the projects that we have. So it's a very interesting opportunity in terms of investment, and it's golden visa eligible.
Muito obrigada，非常感谢您带给我们的信息，谢谢您。